Hi, guys. Welcome to tonight's live chat. I hope that I didn't confuse you guys. I had to change my timing a little bit, and I've been having some issues with getting YouTube started. So hopefully, if you guys are signing in, I see that you're signing in a little at a time. Let me know if you can hear and see me because I've had a lot of issues with YouTube today. So in tonight's live chat, let me actually make sure that Instagram is okay because I don't see that it is. So give me 1 second as I try to see what's going on Instagram. I do see some of you signing in, so this should give you just a little bit of time to kind of sign in. So, okay, hopefully Instagram is okay. I see you guys signing in a little bit at a time. But let me know if there's any kind of issues, okay? Because I had a delayed live chat on Instagram earlier and it was just a mess. But anyhow, let's go ahead and jump in, guys. This conversation is a pretty interesting conversation, and I hate talking about siblings. I never want to talk about siblings. I never want to make them seem like, evil pawns of the devil. I really do think that siblings should be close. They should be loving towards each other. They should be able to at least communicate in a healthy way and have each other's best interest at heart. But that's not always the case, right? I think for a lot of us, the reality is sibling relationships can be really rocky. They can actually be worse than some of the relationships that you have outside of the family. I once, this reminds me of something that happened to me a couple years ago. I had a client that came in for her first appointment, and it was her and her brother. She said to me over the phone before she even scheduled the first appointment, I want to work on my relationships, and I want to work on moving forward and growing and maturing and coming together with other people in my family and not feeling overwhelmed and as if I don't measure up. Okay, great. Let's get you scheduled for the first appointment. When she came in, though, she's sitting next to this fully grown male, okay, that I incorrectly assumed was a spouse. And when we got into the back room, I introduced myself to she and, this young man, and they sat down on my couch. And after I reviewed confidentiality and privacy and kind of the way that the first appointment would be conducted or would go, she ended up saying to me and my brother, and I could have fell over because I couldn't believe that what I thought I saw with my own two eyes, okay, guys, and my clinical intuition, I thought I was looking at spouse and, spouse, right? The reality was it was not. It was she was very much single, and so was her brother. And she wanted to work on the dynamic between the two of them. And so from that point on, that had to be about 7 or 8 years ago. From that point on, I realized that even in some of the things that we worked on with this sibling relationship, some of the things that was going on just kind of makes you scratch your head and you say, why do they act like they're in a relationship? Well, it's not incestuous, it's not inappropriate. It's they are in a relationship as siblings, and they were very much fighting each other like a couple. And so that kind of opened my eyes. That's the reason why I'm telling you this. It kind of opened my eyes to the reality that not all siblings are going to be on the same page. And sometimes they do have to come together as siblings and go into therapy to work through some issues. For her, it was a narcissistic brother who had no empathy. He had control over his parents' estate, and how that came about was sneaky. One night they were sick. Both parents, they were sick, had to go to the ER. Dad passed away with a terrible heart attack. He had a massive heart attack. He passed. Mom lived, but mom went on to get really sick, pneumonia, influenza, all kind of things. And so I remember the brother saying, the best person to take care of our parents is me. And so, they went at it, he and his sister in the session. And that's because he sneakily, which we're going to talk about in tonight's live chat, he sneakily went behind her back, talked to their parents, got dad to sign over his rights so that, the son could take over the estate. And then when mom died, same thing happened. He was a smooth talker. He was manipulative. He didn't care that his sister was, successful and intelligent herself and could very much handle the estate. He wanted all control. Why? Because he was really, in all actuality, I think he was not only a narcissist, but I also think he had some antisocial traits. So he, withdrawing from society, he would isolate himself. He didn't want to communicate with people. He'd rather be a loner for 100% of the time in his life. He thought he was better than people, even if he didn't show it. On the inside, he housed all these thoughts and feelings that he was better than everybody else. And we call that a vulnerable narcissist. On the outside, externally, you appear to be one way. But if we just wait a while, your conversation, your attitude, your disposition, the way you hold eye contact, the way you sit, your nonverbal communication, your attitude, all of that begins to speak, I am better than you. And so that's kind of the vibe that he kind of lived on. And visibly, however, he seemed like a very nice guy, but just wait a while and you would see what's going on. So these two siblings, their dynamic was really interesting. It was strange. And so they went on to do treatment for the next 3 years with me, and it was rocky and up and down, and the list goes on. Now, for the purposes of this chat tonight, guys, we're going to talk about kind of how these sibling dynamics function in your life. And of course, as I always do, I'm going to back it up with personal examples and professional examples. But one thing I did see in the research as I was looking at it the other day, and not for this live chat, I was actually just trying to brush up on my own knowledge of this complex topic. And what I was looking at is one research study that said narcissistic, intimidating, bullying, harassing siblings the relationship can be both destructive and constructive. And they can both exist at the same time. It just depends on what's going on in the relationship. So destructive, we know what that means, guys. The relationship can be bent on competition and manipulation, triangulation, hoovering. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit here. Narcissistic hoovering. It could also be built on abusive tactics and threats, intimidation, scare tactics, fear tactics, trying to think of other things, harassment, if I haven't already said that. So that's the destructive piece of the puzzle. But research also says that these kind of emotionally driven and unstable sibling relationships can also be constructive. Why? Because sometimes when you have somebody who is your equal, which is your sibling, you guys are equals, no matter how many years apart you are, no matter how you are in birth order, age order, it's still in a sense you're equal because that's your sibling. There's no real power differential there. Now we're going to get into that a little bit as well. Like, what does this look like with a power differential? And we're going to talk about that. But if we just look at a sibling relationship, it's an equal relationship, right? You guys are siblings. You both have parents. You need to respect each other. Nobody's better than the other in most respects, right? And so unfortunately, though, if the I'll put it this way, if the relationship is constructive, then it kind of drives your development up, or it can drive your development down. So destructive is the interactions between me and my sibling are driving my development down. I'm getting depressed. I'm getting anxious. My symptoms are getting worse because of my sibling. I'm being humiliated and minimized. They're condescending to me. They make me look bad every chance they get. They manipulate my parents so that they'll treat me a certain way. They give my secrets away and all of my voiced opinions of things that I thought was just between the two of us. My sibling is now, this is also an example of this, where the relationship is destructive. The sibling may come from the idea that we are better than you, myself and my developed family. So myself, my husband, my wife, my children, we're all better than you over there. I know you're my sister, but I'm still better than you. Why? Because you're not married and I am. I have the children and you don't, right? You guys know where I'm going with this. It's this constant one-upping, right? My kid went to this school. We could afford to live in this neighborhood. I have this kind of car and you have a minivan. Like, the list goes on, right? So that destructive communication can actually drive your development and your progress down, right? It's like somebody is lifting up their foot and just standing on you and wanting you to stay down. And most of my clients tell me that that's how that feels. Like, you're not giving me a chance to have my role as your equal, as my sibling, because you don't want me to be above you. Now, the constructive piece of this is, oh, you may have an attitude like, oh, really? Well, you know what? I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to get a degree. I'm going to keep growing in my life. I'm going to keep, feeding my mind, my heart, my soul. I'm going to get a better job. I'm going to move into a more decent neighborhood. I'm going to find somebody that I love. I'm going to bring these kids into the world and raise them right. I'm going to support our parents, right? So that is the constructive piece of the family relationship between two siblings. Oh, this is how you're going to treat me, like I'm less than? Well, you know what? I'm going to get stronger. And so that can actually, those emotions that you may have in that sense can drive your development, upward. And that's a good thing. Sometimes, let's say, for example, your sibling feels like they're here with you, right? And they feel like you are here. When you start doing good in your life, and you start showing that you're capable, then the relationship becomes more equalized. And that is usually where you're going to see the sibling lash out in manipulation and triangulation. Why? Because now there's an equal playing field, and they don't want that. They want you to feel beneath. The power differential feels so much better, that I'm up here and you're here. But once you get your life together, once you go back to school, once you put up boundaries, once you go no contact, once you learn more about yourself, once you grow spiritually, whatever the progress or the process, when you become that sibling's equal, it's a whole new game there. And so research suggests that in that sense, you may find that there's manipulation of the parent now in the relationship, because I can't manipulate you anymore. You're too strong for me. And how you became strong, I have no idea. Some siblings will also show that kind of side of themselves. Like, how did you do this? How did you emerge from all that chaos? You know what I mean? So usually they will kind of default to, I'm going to manipulate mom and dad now because you're getting stronger. So forget that. I'm going over here. And I've had cases like this. I'm going over here and I'm going to manipulate mom and dad to see you a certain way, to think of you a certain way, to treat you a certain way, so that I then gain that power. And I'm going to run that as long as I can. Now, if for any reason mom and dad don't do what I want, okay, this is the narcissistic, unhealthy, bully, intimidating sibling talking to you. If mom and dad finds out that I'm trying to manipulate things, then I think what I'm going to do is now pull out the card of narcissistic hoovering. And that is when you, as the healthier sibling, say, I'm going to put some distance between us. I'm not going to be abused. I'm going to make sure that you respect me. And I'm not talking to you. I'm not communicating with you until you figure that out. Okay, so that's your disposition. What does the manipulative sibling do? Well, they start with hoovering or narcissistic hoovering. They, a little bit at a time, text you, email you, call you, reel you back in, and next thing you know, you guys are friends again, right? And Sadly, this is where a lot of siblings get confused. They feel like, oh, we made up, everything is lovely again, we're going to go forward together, life is going to be fantastic. And 3 months down the road, sometimes 2 weeks down the road, sometimes hours, it switches again, right? And then the cycle of abuse starts all over again. Why? Because narcissistic hoovering is basically this power struggle. It says, my tactics are not working, so I'm going to have to try a new tactic to get you. And so I'm going to manipulate you until you come back into my space. And then I'm going to just treat you the way I've always treated you. There's not going to be any shift here. There's not going to be any change. Let me also say, before I go to the chat box, because I see you guys chatting it up, and I see that you guys are feeling like this is very, what's the word I'm looking for? Relatable, that you can relate to this. So I'm going to go to the chat box, but I want to give you a couple more things to think about with this dynamic that's so complicated. Let me also say that sometimes the sibling will, not only manipulate your parents to see you a certain way, but let's say your parents are upset with you. Let's say you're in conflict with your parents. What will this evil sibling do? Well, they may go to mom and dad and try to manipulate the conflict that is going on between you and your parent. So dad is mad at you because you got married without telling him. Mom is upset because she can't believe that you didn't feel, close to her enough to tell her that you were getting married. So now mom and dad are angry with you. They haven't called you for the past 2 holidays. They haven't sent you any gifts. They act like you don't exist. They are fed up with you. They're mad. Okay, so they're pouting. What does that evil sibling over here do? Well, they can go either to dad or mom or both, and they can say, it's horrible how she did this. I can't believe she did this to you. You guys have given us everything, and this is the least she can do, is send you an email and let you know she got married. How dare she? And there you have it, right? And so even if mom and dad want to be objective and say, you know what, I'm not going to let my emotions dominate me. I'm not going to hear what that, my other, child is saying. Even if they don't want to hear it, they usually do hear it. And so then they become kind of frustrated with you even more, because now your sibling is now saying that what has happened to them is wrong. Does that make sense, guys? So sometimes the sibling will manipulate the situation or the conflict that's going on between the two of you. There's also shape shifting. We can't ignore that when it comes to these kind of siblings. These kind of siblings are destructive. They are intimidating. They are threatening. Some of them very bullying. Some of them very abusive. We're going to get into that just a little bit. But they engage in what we call shape shifting, meaning that they frequently change who they are. It's kind of like this jack in a box, if you will. You don't know what's going to pop out of the box today, because this is an individual who constantly changes. There's not one steady image. They shape and shift their behavior at all times. And so that can be frightening and intimidating, right? That sibling that you love and we're just sitting at dinner laughing and cracking up and, singing songs and going back to previous memories with, is a week after that is now going against you for something. And so shape-shifting siblings can be very terrifying. We also have family alliances and coalitions that plays into this as well. When thinking about family therapy, family alliances, family coalitions can be very detrimental. Why? Because your sibling, who is the evil sibling who does all the wrong things, they can get wrapped up with your parent, one of your parents, if not both, and kind of create this treaty, if you will, or some kind of coalition and alliance where they are like this, they're connected, and they've built this bond where they go against you together because they agree to something or they support the same cause, right? It would be kind of like, before I go to the chat box, it would kind of be like your sister going to mom and dad and saying that you need intervention for substance abuse, right? And mom, dad, and your sister all believe in Alcoholics Anonymous. They all believe in going to get therapy for alcoholism. Okay. So there is the alliance. We agree to something and we're standing on that. And then when you come into the picture, now we're going to stand on what we believe as three people in the same situation, in the same alliance, and we're going to come against you with it. You know, it's kind of like an intervention, if you will. And so that can be intimidating, you know. And a family coalition is kind of the same thing, you know. The only difference here, I would say, is there's often cooperation between two individuals or more. There's cohesive and firm communication. So again, it's kind of like this we against them mentality. And once that happens with a sibling and the parents, you're going to be on the outside looking in if the parents are unstable, you know? And that's the sad part. Imagine having a sibling who is a narcissist, has no empathy, is controlling and manipulative, but so too is mom. And they get together all the time and they are the closest. They hold hands in the family because they are very much alike. It's a very scary thing, right? Once you break down the relationship dynamics, you know, it really does cause you to like pump the brakes and say, wait a minute, is this me? Has this happened? You know, in tonight's live chat, guys, I'm going to try to wrap up by 8:00 p.m. Eastern time. But I do want to take you through some common issues that you may face with siblings like this. I also want to give you a little bit of the research. And then, of course, at the closer towards the end of the live chat tonight, I want to give you some information on how this impacts you. It's hard having siblings like this, and it is not easy. Siblings, I told one of my clients this a couple months ago, siblings are siblings by blood, right? But sometimes they are not siblings because they are interconnected. They are not connected emotionally, psychologically, right? They are not connected through any kind of connection with the soul. They are sometimes, siblings are sometimes like complete strangers, even if you've grown up in the same home. Why? Because of epigenetics, which we've talked about. DNA, right? Maybe they took more after dad's side of the family, right? And there you are having taken more after your mother. So you're more gentle and kind and engaging and open and talented and smart. And your other sibling is the total opposite. And so that causes you guys to clash because there's no cohesion between the two of you or the three of you or the four of you, you know? And so that is scary. So we're going to get into some of this in tonight's live chat. Okay, let me go to the chat box. And let's start with you, a seat at the King's Table with Tanisha. Good to see you. Hope this topic is going to be helpful to you. Good to see you back. The Good Glow, thank you so much for confirming that. Good to see you back tonight. Ponytail, I don't know why I get excited with Starburst, Lemon Squeeze, and Ponytail. Those names do it for me. I don't know what it is. Ponytail, good to see it. Good to see you. Glad that you could join us. Fifi LaFleur, hello. Good to see you back in a live chat tonight. I also see Kiki B, Yvette Terry, Orlando, Sun and Sunflowers, Gary Bennett. Good to see you. And Jenny, good to see you. Glad to have all of you in this live chat tonight. First time here, Jenny. Good to see you and welcome. And I see that you say you have a sister that is cruel. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to get into some of that tonight. Elizabeth, always good to see you in the live chat. Weather fluctuations. That's another screen name that gets me. Weather fluctuations. Hello and welcome. Good to see you back. Weather fluctuations says, my siblings are strangers. This should be a good one. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They go on to say, but siblings can be evil, exploitive. Yes, they can. And one of the biggest ways that they can be exploitive, one thing that helps them be exploitive is the bloodline, is the connection, right? Because if you've grown up in the same house, under the same rules, under the same regulations, under the parents that you have, it's possible that the sibling can do more damage than other people because they've kind of, for some families, have been raised at the same time. They've experienced most of life together. You may have divulged or given information that is secret that nobody else knows. So they can exploit you in a deeper way than other people because they're so close to you and they know you better, you know? And that's the scary part. I always feel like I mispronounce your name. Is it is the G silent on this one? Or is it Jesus El Savor? I messed that up. I know I did. I feel like I messed that up. Forgive me. Correct me, please. It's good to see you, though. You're always commenting, sending messages on my shorts and that. So always good to see you. You said 2 a.m. in my country. Wow. Thank you for joining. Good to see you. Jermaine, I hope I said that correctly. Welcome. Good to see you. Says sibling stuff is what I need to learn about most. Yeah. Yeah. My goodness, Jenny, don't be so modest about this whole thing. No, I'm kidding. Jenny says my sister is the evil pawn of the devil. I think that's what you meant. Yeah, well, sometimes that's the case, right? Who remembers the movie The Evil Seed? You remember that movie? Or what's the other movie? Not Poltergeist. Darn, it's escaping me. The Evil Seed and The Omen. The Omen. Who remembers that? Or The Exorcist. Who remembers that? For the past 2 days, guys, we've been bringing up some movies. I know I noticed that in the last chat. But those movies kind of give you a little bit of a peek, if you will, into relationships and personality and things that some people believe can really change the dynamic of a relationship, you know? Jessica J, hello. Good to see you. Yeah, and good to hear that you are listening. Laura O'Neill, hello and welcome. Good to see you back tonight. Says my six younger siblings are all toxic. Whoa. I haven't spoken to any of them in over 20 years. I was an only child for 7 years. Then our mother had 6 kids, all 15 months apart. Wow. That, I wonder if it was strategic. You know what I mean? Wow. That's, excuse me, that's difficult. And I think a lot of people fail to realize that when you bring into the world more than 2 or 3 siblings, and sometimes 4, the dynamic shifts just based on the fact that there's kids of different ages, kids with, different birth order. And sometimes they're not always full-blooded. Sometimes they're half siblings or steps of siblings. And that just creates a really big bowl of chaos for some families. I've had parents reach out to me for therapy, and they will say, I want to get my son in who's 9 for therapy, and then I'm waiting for it. Then it'll be, and my 12-year-old and my 15-year-old, my 17-year-old. And if we could possibly do me and my husband too, that would be great. And sometimes it's like, oh my goodness, no, and then you have to say, okay, well, I'm going to have to send you guys this way. I will take you, therapists have to figure out how to kind of work that out. But there are many situations where, parents have more than 3 or 4 kids, and the dynamic shifts a lot between siblings, and it can actually be traumatic in some cases. Ellie Wynn, good to see you back. Hope you're doing well today. Kiki B says, my narcissistic, oh my God, let me start this over. My narcissistic sibling is waiting to be the next head narc of our family. That's awful. That's awful. I like what Weather Fluctuation says here, Kiki B. They say users exploit it. Exploitive. Oh God, I don't even know. Do I want to say that? I mean, weather fluctuations, you have the right to your anger, frustration on that. I'm sure in some way to call them beasts is a way to just say they are very inhumane sometimes in how they behave. And they are. Some siblings are so jealous and so intimidated by the other sibling that they'll do whatever it takes to undermine their sibling, make their sibling feel like the ousted one. The list goes on. It's very sad. And in some cases, pretty pathetic that a sibling would try that hard to harm somebody that has their own flesh and blood, DNA and genetics, right? Gary Bennett says every sibling wants equal love from their parents, family. Some siblings don't want their other siblings to get any attention. They become selfish and what the focus on them. You mean want the focus on them. Selfishness feeds the ego. Yeah, it can. Absolutely. And sometimes there's competition. I have to make sure that I get all of mom's attention. I have to make sure that I get all of dad's attention and make sure that it's positive and convincing and coercive at every point, because I want to make sure that my cousin over there understands that I'm the top dog in this family. I once had a client say that to me. I want my cousin to know, my brother to know, and my older brother, as well as my younger brother, to know that I am the top dog in our family. And she was very adamant about it. Imagine if you don't feel that you are already. Imagine dealing with a narcissistic sibling that has to be at the top at all times. You're never going to get any space. The way that I often say this to my clients is, if you have a sibling who's a narcissist, it's like they're holding their arms like this, right? And every time you try to get around them, they go this way and they go that way, right? And they go this way. Why? Because they're trying to crowd you out of the picture. They want to be the only one, the shining star. And if you ask me, I would call that malicious envy. Malicious envy. I've talked about it this week in my video. Malicious envy. I'm jealous, I'm envious, and I'm going to do this in a dark, dirty way so that you understand that I need to be on top. Malicious envy. I see that a lot. Phoenix, hello. Good to see you. Welcome back. Phoenix says, I need to stay out of the chat so I can pay attention, but I'm glad to be here. Oh, that's so cute. Yes, I'm glad you're here as well. I was actually waiting. I was in line waiting today, just on a service that I purchased in some items. And I'm just standing in line and I'm like, oh my God, I'm not going to make it. Do I have to do YouTube tonight? I was getting so tired because I literally sat in line for 30 minutes. Can you believe that? I'm not going to put the store out there, but I was waiting and I was looking at your chats from last night and I was laughing, smiling. I mean, the things that you guys say is amazing. Just know that. I love reading through the chat box. Socialite Polity, good evening to you. Thank you so much for that. Good to see you back tonight. Fifi LaFleur says, I think my half-sister and her mother may have some antisocial traits as well. My therapist says they do. Horrible to deal with. Yes, it is. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised. Thank you so much, Laura. It's great to see you as well. Wait a minute. How do I get out of here? Hold on, guys. I hit the wrong button. There we go. Jenny says, my sister forced my father to put my mom in a nursing home so she wouldn't have to help out. She died of a broken heart. My father was so guilted, contemplated suicide. Oh, that's awful. My Lord. That's why, just briefly, that's why when it comes to end of life decisions, I really try to encourage my clients to take that step when you are able-bodied. Take that step when you are in your right frame of mind. You don't necessarily want to be like most of America, or even my very own late grandmother, who kind of was of the mentality that I will make those decisions when I get sick, right? I will make those decisions when the time comes. That's not going to be reality for most of us. My grandmother barely made it. My late grandma, she passed away in 2020, shook our family. She was just everything to us, And so I remember her talking to me in the hospital saying, I'm going to have to lean on you. I want you to take my estate. Because you're going to be able to be more objective than everybody else in this emotional family dynamic. Nobody's talked to each other in years. Nobody's been interconnected for years. My children don't get along, my uncle and my mom. And she's like, I need you. And so at the time, the family dynamic was a little shaky, right? So anyway, the scary part about that, though, is my grandmother waited to literally a month before she passed away to change things around. She had everything planned a certain way, but then her heart switched and she wanted to change things again at the final moments of her life. But it is scary, right? Because if the wrong person, this is for you, Jenny, if the wrong person gets control of the parents' estate, power of attorney, bills, whatever, you can guarantee it's going to be a horror movie, a nightmare. So it's often best if we all do it this way, by starting while we're able-bodied, even though it's the ugliest topic to discuss, right? So hopefully that added something to you, Jenny. I can agree with your situation. And I can share your sentiments, because it happened to me with my grandmother and her children. We should start sooner than later. That's my message. Orlando says strange relationship. Yep. Fairy girl, hello, welcome. Good to see you back. Okay, guys, bear with me. Felix, it's good to see you back. Good to see you back. Yvette Terry says the hardest part, at least for me, is when your sibling says they care, but their actions don't line up. Absolutely. Yep. I don't want to hear your words and can't see your feet moving in that direction, because it's not adding up here. Fruity Pie ASMR, hello, welcome back. Good to see you. Says, I am the scapegoat. My older sister was always distant. Only when I got a good paying job, my covert narc mom used it to self-boast and brag. My sister started being very passive aggressive to me. Yeah, absolutely. I see that a lot in therapy. I really do. Sibling sees you getting more attention from a parent, and God forbid you're getting attention from the parent that they highly praise and see in a positive, perfect light, because you're really going to catch it at that point. It shouldn't be that way, but it is. Mama Black Sheep, hello and welcome. Good to see you on the channel. I don't remember seeing you, so welcome. Mama Black Sheep says, my husband allowed his sister to interfere in our marriage. He told her every single detail of our relationship. I'm trying to work through the trauma it caused. It felt like an affair. That should never happen. Oh my God. I would be so furious, right? If I had a husband like that. It's okay to confide in your family. It's another thing when you are taking all of our business and giving that to your sibling, because at some point down the line, whether we remain married or not, if we have a rocky period in our relationship or not, that sibling is going to use that against me, right? And maybe even use it against you as the sibling. I just think that for the word I want to say is escaping me. I can't think of it. But for how can I say this? The word is like right there, guys. And I can't. I'll put it this way. Okay. For the respect of the relationship, just minimize what it is that you want to tell your sister, just minimize what it is that you want to tell your mother, your dad, your cousin about our marriage, right? Minimize that. Don't tell everything. You kind of want to keep some space for me and you to work through this, or to get through it and not have other people on the outside influencing it. That's the best way I can put it without not having that word that I'm looking for. But I understand what you're saying, Mama Black Sheep. I see this a lot in therapy all the time. Reed, hello and welcome. Good to see you. And welcome to the channel. I don't remember seeing you. Reed says, amazing. This is exactly what happened to me. Yep, I'm sure. Laura Fitz, hello and welcome back. Always good to see you. A few more comments, guys, and I'm going back to the content for you. T Bunny Shy, hello and welcome back. Good to see you. Says, Mike sister, I think you meant my sister, uses the push-pull method. Yep. Things go so well, and then she switches to hate. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And sometimes that push-pull relationship is, give me what I want. And when you say no, then they're gone. Right? If you say yes, they're all in, right? If you put up a boundary, they're gone again. It's a roller coaster for those kind of siblings. Sun and Sunflowers, I don't know if I welcomed you. Yes, I did. I think I did. Sun and Sunflower says, my siblings rage at me every chance they got when I was in their company. My parents I think you meant behind my back as children, or talked about us behind my back as children. I don't know which one. This is years of damage that can't be undone. Yeah, it is damage. What I just said, I'll put it this way. What I just said about a marriage, that there should be so much that person is giving to other people, that should be the same way with siblings, right? And my mom she's to me the prime example of that. She has respected that dynamic within a relationship. She doesn't tell my siblings everything that happens to me, the things that we pray about, the things that have been tough in my past, the medical conditions I've had to deal with in the past, even my concussion. My brothers didn't even know I had a concussion because she just didn't run to them and tell them everything, and just growing up and trying to figure out family and trying to figure out genes and DNA and relationships and family trauma and all of that. It was between me and my mom, and same thing with my older siblings, same thing with my younger siblings. It is what it is, and that's called respect. When I can just give you a little bit of information, but I protect everything else because I respect that relationship. Yeah, I wish more parents knew that. Okay, Sammy D, hello, good to see you back tonight. Anaphylaxis, good to see you, and good to see you back. Rochella, hello, good to see you. Thank you for the hearts. And Mama Boom Bam, you're the last one, so I can go back to the content. Mama Boom Bam, welcome, good to see you. Says, I think you meant, may we all find inner peace to move on from what we have endured. Peace to all. I very much agree with that. That was very classy. Thank you for saying that. All right, guys, let's get back into the content. Give me 1 second. Okay. What are common issues with these kind of siblings? They are sneaky, right? Harmful, detrimental. Research in psychology on siblings and really dysfunctional family dynamics, like what I talked about last night in last night's live chat. The research says that narcissism, bullying, and family violence tends to be deeply rooted in the family dynamic and deeply rooted in intergenerational trauma. Usually we don't have narcissistic siblings emerge. Excuse me. We don't have family violence emerge. And we also don't have intimidation, threats, and bullying emerge out of nowhere. In a sibling relationship where there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of dysfunction, there's some competition, there's some power differentials. Maybe that was the sibling that was the most intelligent, or maybe that's the handsome one over there, or maybe that's the one that gets all the praise in the family. Whatever the case, all of that doesn't, according to some research on sibling relationships, all of that doesn't just emerge out of nowhere. It emerges out of rooted intergenerational trauma. It emerges from generational chaos, disrespect within a family, right? These are all things that are ingrained and rooted in the family. Usually when I see clients, they come into my office when it has anything to do with sibling rivalry, marriage chaos, mother-daughter issues, father-son issues. I often ask questions about the generations in the family. How was your grandmother? How was your great-grandfather? Were there marriages that lasted in the family until death? Was there chaos around, discrimination and marginalization and racism? And has any of that been in the family? And sometimes my client will say, yes, we had this in our history and that in our history. And the building blocks begin to build. And we can kind of see, me and my client, over time, that, wait a minute, this is not just me and mom fighting because we don't get along. This is me and mom fighting because she and her mother fought all the time. This is not me, my mom, and my father going at it with each other because we are just fed up with each other. This is because my family has had years upon years of dysfunction that has made every relationship in my family unhealthy. So when you look at it that way, you can say, okay, wait a minute. This is starting to make the sense I needed to make. This is connecting the dots. This narcissism in my sibling, this attitude problem in my sibling, this mind-boggling disposition, this narcissism didn't just come out of anywhere. My sibling is taking the footsteps of other people in our family. And it might be dad, right? It may be the parent that they're walking in the footsteps of. They also emerge from a family where there's constantly shifting rules. Have you ever heard and I hear this a lot though in therapy, but have you ever heard someone say, I didn't expect you to do that because typically you do that, right? Some people have quickly changing rules and they don't let you in on the rules that they've created and on the rules that they're going to switch up on you the next time you see each other. You know what I mean by that? And that is detrimental. It's detrimental to the relationship as well, because you're expecting that sibling to be the same person that you've always known them to be. And they've changed, right? Shape shifting. They have shifted their attitude, their mindset, their behaviors. And when you get comfortable with that image of your sibling, then give it a little time. They're going to shape shift again. And so constantly shifting roles and personalities and mindsets and values and attitudes, all of that can be really difficult for you to live with, but it is a common theme in psychology. There may also be sneaky persuasion within the dynamic between your sibling and your parents and between you and your sibling. Sneaky persuasion. I'm going to persuade you, whether that's directly or indirectly, in hopes that my sophisticated persuasion will get me what I want and will push you out somehow over there. Sneaky persuasion. Or I'm going to persuade mom and dad to see you in a negative light. Remember I said hoovering, narcissistic hoovering, where, siblings like this, they try to reassert their power and authority. And sometimes it's narcissistic hoovering. Sometimes it's, I'm going to manipulate the conflict that you, mom and dad, are having. And I'm going to do that from the outskirts. Well, that's basically sneaky persuasion. I'm going to get in here and I'm going to persuade everyone and everything in hopes that I change things. If you really take the time to think about that, it's a really evil maneuver, right? It's a really evil maneuver, because if you're going to be persuasive, you've got to know when to execute your moves, right? And thinking through those moves often happens before the persuasion does. And so it's very premeditated. That is my point. It's very premeditated. And that, to me, is evil. That is evil. There's often competition, cunning behavior. There's a lot of monopolizing with these kind of siblings. There's entitled and self-motivated desires, right? Entitled is ugly. You're never entitled to anything in this life. Some people just feel like, I'm entitled to be happy. I'm entitled to be free. I'm entitled to get everything I want. I'm entitled to control that person over there. I'm entitled to exercise my rights. No, you're not. There's a boundary when it comes to what you are owed and what you are, what's the word I'm looking for? Not entitled to, but what you should expect to get in return. There's limits to that. But siblings who are entitled will manipulate the dynamic. They will possibly even try to hurt your reputation, maybe hurt you, because you haven't given them something they feel that they are entitled to. And they will drive you up a wall until you give them sometimes what they want. This happens a lot in sessions. I'll give you an example. I had a dad many years ago that came to me with his two daughters. Mom had passed away unexpectedly during childbirth, and he had to take his two girls and try to raise them. This was an ugly dynamic, because what his entitled daughter, who was the older daughter did, is she was manipulating dad's funds. And so somehow she would persuade him to give her money. and then more money and more money and more money. And guess what she was doing with it? She was pocketing all the money. So it was kind of like this persuasive maneuver of, I'm just going to cry boohoo. I'm going to push the right buttons on dad, and he's going to continue to write these checks out for me. And so later down the line, he found out that she was banking all of his money. He actually sued her to teach her a lesson later in life. But she took all of his money. Why? Because she was cunning, manipulative, and she was monopolizing. And she wanted to get all the benefits of dad and leave her other sibling, her other sister, in the dust, So that's an example of that. Just that entitled. I'm entitled to get what I want. And so I'm going to do this because I feel entitled. Now, let me also say, before I go back to the chat box, guys, and take a little bit of a break, let me say the research shows that sibling relationships are often the most important piece of the puzzle of developing over time. Can you believe that? Remember yesterday we talked about family isn't everything if they hurt you? Well, there's a reason why I'm talking about this tonight, because it kind of is almost going off the heels of yesterday's live chat, because research shows that a good sibling relationship is what you need to adjust to the world in a healthy way, to learn to control your thoughts, needs, behaviors, your feelings, right? It's also a relationship that shows you what relationships should be. But when you don't have that, right, then you're kind of left in the dust. And so research suggests that this can be very damaging. You could think your sibling relationship reflects all relationships in life. On top of that, if you're being harassed, bullied, manipulated, triangulated, harmed, marginalized, we can get on a whole list. If you're experiencing all of that, it is definitely going to affect you over time. So research is sound. It makes a lot of sense. There's also age differences, birth order, and cultural differences that research suggests can be really difficult in families where there's narcissistic and unhealthy siblings. I'm older than you, and so therefore I deserve A, B, and C. That's part of that. Birth order, I've always been the favorite child because I'm the middle child and I'm the baby child, so I get what I want. That's that kind of disposition and attitude that can be detrimental to you over time. The other piece of this, before I go back to the chat box, you ready for this, guys? This kind of shook me a little bit. I was surprised that sibling violence, intimidation, bullying, harassment, not giving you the space that you need, right? Pitting people against you, whether that's mom, dad, other siblings, or kids at school, competing with you, experiencing malicious envy against you, manipulating your life, manipulating your mind. This is all family violence, taking advantage of you, pulling you back into a cycle of abuse, narcissistic hoovering. All of that is considered family violence. Well, research suggests that family violence between siblings tends to be the most detrimental to you, to the sibling who is the victim. And that tends to be the most prominent form of child abuse. Having a sibling that engages in family violence tends to be the most common form of child abuse. Very interesting, right, guys? Because really what it's saying, if I break it down, is parental abuse of children, getting bullied at school. That is a problem. But what's sometimes the bigger problem in these homes isn't the parent abusing the child. It's the child abusing the child. It's the sibling abusing the sibling. And that can also include sexual molestation. It can also include emotional extortion or emotional manipulation. And I thought that was pretty interesting. I would think parent-child abuse would be the most common, but no, the most common is sibling abuse, sibling violence, family violence. Interesting, right, guys? Okay, let me take a little bit of a break, go to the chat box, and then I'm going to give you the final pieces of this, which is how this impacts you over time. All right, I'm scrolling, guys. Courtney Fraser says, my sister defended my dad when I was in a mental health ward for suicidal ideation. when I called her and tried to explain to her part of what's got me there in the first time in 2021. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe she feels the need, Courtney Fraser, to defend dad. And if that's the case, okay. I've been in those situations with my siblings where I've defended my mom, you know. But what maybe your sister should have done, and she may not have the skills to do this, Courtney, because you have to have self-awareness in order to develop skills. And maybe she just doesn't have that. So maybe we should give her the benefit of the doubt there. I don't know. But maybe she felt the need to defend dad. Fine. So then don't make it look like you're coming against me, though. Hear me out. And you can still support dad, but hear me out and approach me with an unbiased, attitude or disposition. Sometimes that tends to be the most beneficial form of communication. Rochella says, I'm estranged from all of my siblings. They are just products of our abusive upbringing. They are externalizers. I'm an internalizer. Yeah, absolutely. Some of the research does say that if there's parental abuse, if there's intergenerational abuse, if there's generational trauma, that can fall on siblings and they can start to reenact that family trauma. They kind of slide into pieces of the dynamic that's unhealthy within the family. Your brother becomes that loud, raging, threatening bully that your dad has always been. Your sister becomes that promiscuous, evil demon who looks to destroy everybody in the family when she gets a chance, and she took after great grandma Nunu, and so that's a possibility too. It's frightening, but it's a possibility. Anaphylaxis is so relatable, Tamara. Good. I'm glad to hear that. The more relatable, the more you can kind of gain from the therapeutic edges that we're kind of talking about in tonight's live chat. Okay, CB's, good to see you back. Welcome. Says, in my family, even cousins smear other family members against each other. It's hard to trust because lies are told behind everyone's back. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Manipulation. I would actually go so far as to call it triangulation. Ellie Wen says, my sibs are as bad as other sibs here. Yeah. Not that my siblings never get on my nerves, because they do. Some more than others. My older brother, I don't know what it is. Every time he enters the room, I have always been this way with him. It's like seeing a celebrity. I'm so happy to see him, even though we are fully grown adults with careers and life experience, and he's married with his children, and list goes on. And because we're so busy and everything, we don't get to see each other a lot. We text all the time. We call each other every now and then, When I was younger, though, he was like a celebrity to me. Like, I would just see my big brother and go berserk. He was just my favorite. So even my younger sibling, now he gets on my nerves a little bit more than the older one, let me tell you. But I love them, and I've been blessed to have really good siblings. But within my extended family, there's been sibling chaos. There's been sibling deception. There's been sibling pain. My own mother and her brother grew up in a very dysfunctional dynamic. At some point, when my grandmother and my grandfather divorced, that caused so much chaos. And I think that chaos came in between my uncle and my mom. And it created a very toxic dynamic where my mom was just like, I've got to get out of here. So she didn't see our family for, I don't know how many years. It might have been 7, might have been 5, might have been off and on for a year or two. And she kind of roamed through life on her own to gain some mental peace, But for me personally, I've been blessed with really good siblings. It's when you have detrimental siblings, or you have siblings that are ungrateful, disrespectful, seem to be self-centered, like my mom and how she has felt with her sibling. It can be a very painful walk through life, you know? And it really does take growth over time, wisdom, sometimes going to contact, whether that's long periods of time or short periods of time. It requires that. The situation is so dire that it requires that so that you can move forward in a healthy way, you know? So Ellie Wynn, I get you on a personal and professional level. I do. A seat at the King's Table with Tanisha says, Tamara, it's really heartbreaking to realize how jealous my younger sister is. I'm realizing she's so jealous of me. I have no choice but to distance myself. That type of jealousy is dangerous. I very much agree. Let me plug in my charger, guys, because I don't want to lose you. It's detrimental. And a seat at the King's Table with Tanisha, I would call it malicious envy. Malicious envy. You're going to want to see my video from this past week. All right, bear with me, guys. I have to plug in my charger. Okay. My early days of live chats have been tremendously difficult, let me tell you. My computer would go out, I'd lose my battery, my microphone would go out. It was just a whole lot. So, but a seat at the King's Table with Tanisha, you might want to look that up, malicious envy. And as a matter of fact, I would Google malicious envy and also add in their siblings, so that you can see some of the information that comes up on that. Sammy D says, I have 4 siblings. One of my little sisters died from cancer 2 years ago, nearly. Oh my God. I'm sorry, Sammy D. That's rough, right? That's rough. None of the siblings left have any contact with each other at all since then. And before that, it was minimal. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sometimes, and I'm sorry for your loss, Sammy D, that's rough. And it's even more painful when you realize that, okay, that person has passed on and we're still not close, you know? Usually families suspect to get back together and become closer when someone dies. But the reality of that is sometimes you get further apart. Okay, I feel like I'm blurry. If I'm blurry, guys, let me know. There we go. I think I got it back. I think. Laura Fitz says, yes, toxic patterns, extremely unhealthy. I keep my distance. My mental health comes first. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Let me fix this, guys. I'm sorry. I think that's it. MS, hello and welcome back tonight. Good to see you. MS says, thank you for this info. It's the story of my life and sadly, probably of so many of us here tonight. Yes, it is. I agree. I agree. And you're welcome. You're welcome. We need to talk about it. We don't have enough information on it at all. Gary Bennett says it's a competition for favorable attention to get extra love and affection. Yep. Plus money. I agree. I agree, Gary Bennett. Not in every situation, but most, yes. Okay. Orlando says, this is exactly the relationship I have with my brothers. Yeah. I remember you sharing some of that on the channel. Mama Black Sheep says it feels so inappropriate. It does. I agree. I know what you're referring to. Kristen English, hello and welcome. Good to see you tonight and welcome to the channel. Kristen English says, my siblings don't want to have anything to do with me because my mom changes them about me. Yeah, sometimes that happens too. You may be referring to what I said earlier when I say sometimes the sibling manipulates that conflict between another sibling and the parents, you know? That's a painful thing. Kristen, it's up to your family and your parents to be able to determine if they should turn their backs on you or not, right? They should have their own mind and their own heart to decide that, not go off of what a sibling is saying. But sometimes the sibling is so, dark, evil, manipulative, persuasive, that it's almost like they take over, possess the mind and the heart of that other person, and that other person just changes on you. It's hard to believe. Michelle N, hello and welcome. Good to see you back tonight. All right, JD Jenny, hello and welcome. Good to see you. JD Jenny says, my siblings tried to manipulate me into a conservator-ship. Oh, for those of you who don't know what a conservator-ship is, that's when somebody has already been assigned power of attorney, And I think somebody has been assigned the estate once that person dies. But if somebody doesn't agree with that line or that ordering of events, Aunt Nunu is the power of attorney. Uncle KK is the executor of this estate. If sibling 3 doesn't like that, right, they can present a conservatorship to you, which kind of trumps the power of attorney and the executorship. I hope that makes sense. And what happens there is it's kind of like saying, I don't think you're competent, or I want the power to control mom and dad's estate. We'll use that for example. And a conservatorship is really a court process where you have to prove that a conservatorship is going to be the best way to settle an estate. I know this is very confusing for maybe those of you who aren't aware of this. I know about it because my grandmother put me in charge of my late grandma put me in charge of her estate back in 2020 when she passed away. But it can be an ugly thing, right? Because there's already been assigned a power of attorney. There's already been assigned an executor. Can we just let that person pass away and do this the way that they wanted to do it? And sometimes other siblings will come up, or other family members will come out of the woodworks and say, well, I want to control that. I want that. I want that. I don't think you're the right person to be a part of the estate. And so then that's when a conservatorship is pursued. And that conservatorship trumps, again, it trumps everything else. Anyway, JD Jenny says, I am the oldest of 3. It's always a constant fight for my narcissistic parents' approval. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think a conservatorship is a waste of money. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of court time. And it's a waste of resources. Because if mom and dad have already made their decision, why are we trying to go above what they want, right? Or why are we trying to change the order of things? Just let it go, you know? Yvette Terry says jealousy is the root of their behavior. Yes, it is. Yeah. AC and Patricia. I hope I said that correct. Hello and welcome to the channel. AC and NA, excuse me, Patricia says, my sister turned into a stranger. Yeah. Absolutely. That's how they do it sometimes. That's how they do it. They just shapeshift. That's why I brought that up earlier. They're constantly shifting their identity. Lainey B. L.K. Well, I probably messed that up. I apologize. But welcome to the channel and welcome to the chat tonight. Lainey B.L.K. Well says, this is my life with my sister and my dad. I'm so heartbroken. He doesn't understand. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry you have to go through that. You know, it's painful when you have to say, why is my dad acting this way? Why is my mom acting this way? Don't they know me? You know, that might be something you might be saying to yourself. Don't they know me? You know, why are we going down this adversarial road? It's like a tongue twister. Adversarial road. Why are we going down this road like that? It just shouldn't be happening, you know? Okay, guys, bear with me. A few more comments, and then we're going to get back to the content. Kay Jeanette, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Kay Jeanette says, I believe older siblings are jealous, even if they have more of younger. It's dysfunctional. Maybe. Maybe. I'm trying to see if I can pull anything from my experience that can promote that. Maybe. There may have been, my mom says there's some periods where my brother was jealous of me when I was on the way. But when I finally arrived to shake up their whole world, I'm just kidding. But when I finally arrived, my brother shifted, you know, he changed. So maybe, you know, maybe, and I don't know. I'm not really aware of the research on that specific question, you know, that are older siblings always, or for the most part, jealous of their younger siblings. I don't know. The research is, I don't know the research on that. And the research on sibling relationships from early childhood is sometimes inconclusive when it comes to birth order. So we need more research, you know. Okay, let me keep moving, guys. Then we're going to get back to the content. Deborah Penna, hello and welcome. Good to see you back tonight. Michelle Lynn, good to see you back. Hello and welcome. All right, we're getting through this, guys. LDB, hello and welcome, and you're welcome. Thank you for letting me know that this is what you're saying to me is a well-needed topic. So good to hear that. I'm going to put you up there, Michelle N. JD Jenny, I apologize for that, says they feel like enemies. Yep. Deborah Penna, yep, you're welcome. And thank you for saying that. Trauma survivor, hello, good to see you back tonight. Laura Fit, you're wonderful. You're wonderful. I had somebody when I was out, I was waiting in a long line for 30 minutes. I told you guys about. Somebody said the same thing to me. Happy International Women's Day. I'm like, what? Oh, it's Saturday. And they're like, no, it's Happy International Women's Day. So thank you for saying that. Starburst. Yeah, good to see you. I was going to let you be the last one. Give me one more comment and then we're going to get back into the content. Anaphylaxis says, I remember all of those movies. The Omen. Andrew Mercer, hello, good to see you back, says, it's Spawn, I think. Oh, I didn't see Spawn. Is that a movie, guys? I'm not a movie person, so that may not be a movie at all. The Omen. I think it was The Omen that I was trying to remember. LDB, welcome to the channel. So good to have you. I'm sorry, LDB, I'm reading too much at the same time, is saying, this is exactly what I'm dealing with. Brother and mom, trauma bond. Yeah. It's either a trauma bond or codependency. They're different. So you may want to look at that. They're different. It could be a trauma bond, codependency. And as a matter of fact, it could also just be a dependent personality, right? You just have to determine which is the dependent one, you know? Sun and Sunflowers, don't feel bad. Have you heard me stutter 900 times tonight? I've mispronounced things and the list goes on. So we're human. I'm with you. Okay, last piece of this content, guys, so we can wrap up. How does this impact you? Well, research suggests, and I have seen this in my practice as well, that there is a continuation of violence within the family. There's a continuation of sibling violence in the family. It never really ends unless you're abusing, bullying, intimidating, unhealthy sibling says, you know what? I need to ensure that I love my sibling. I forgive my sibling. I find some love in my heart for my sibling. I'm here to support my sibling. You know, unless that sibling changes, you're going to have a continuation of family violence, sibling violence, where they're going to manipulate, bully, intimidate, control, coerce, the list goes on, right? And so you may experience years of continuing sibling violence. You may also struggle with, I was going to say something else, but I'll say this first. You can also struggle with poor sibling relationship quality. Poor sibling relationship quality, meaning the quality of your relationship is not authentic. The quality of your relationship is not healthy, motivational. It's not constructive, as we said at the beginning. It's destructive, you know, it is unhealthy. It's on shaky ground. Usually, and this is some of what research suggests as well, if a sibling who is the troublemaking sibling in the family sees how mom treats you or dad treats you, which may be negatively, that sibling then has almost like the motivation they need to also join in. And so some research suggests that that's the dynamic that often leads to poor sibling relationship quality. That I've seen mom and dad treat you this way, and so therefore I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to jump on the bandwagon and I'm going to do the same thing. There may also be coercive sibling interactions. Coercive sibling interactions. I'm going to intimidate you. You better do what I want or I'm going to intimidate you. You better do what I'm asking you to do or I'm going to humiliate you. I'm going to put this on social media. I'm going to tell mom and dad your secrets. I'm going to reveal some things about your marriage to mom and dad that you don't want them to know, right? So coercive interactions. You may also notice within yourself this ongoing distress. It's almost like a motor, right? And it's constantly just running. And sometimes that ongoing distress becomes toxic stress. It also becomes chronic stress. And you can feel that in your body. I know just as well when I am taking on too much. Why? Well, my chest gets tight. Medically, I have what's called cardiac spasm. So it feels like an actual spasming right in the area of your heart, right? That happens to me under too much stress. You start to feel kind of like, and I know you guys can probably relate, you kind of feel like there's this burden on your shoulders, right? You may have tension in your neck, in your arms. You may have a tension headache, right? Those are all signs of distress. And so with these kind of siblings, if you have siblings like this, how do you cope and how do you continue to move forward? If you have a sibling like this that's constantly in your world, it's going to be difficult. So you're going to have ongoing distress until you somehow figure out how to cope better and deal with it. On top of that, there are siblings who, kind of hold you hostage by just being ugly and mean and cruel and dark and evil because of parental preferential treatment. I'll put it that way. Parental preferential treatment. Dad prefers me and not you kind of disposition, or mom prefers you and not me. I'm going to really drive you insane now because I don't like that mom prefers you over me. And so life is going to be difficult with a jealous-hearted, envious sibling like that. There's also the development of antisocial behavior over time with siblings like this. They're not just mean. They're not just dark. They're not just always evil. They're not just manipulative and triangulating, persuasive and controlling. Sometimes they are purely antisocial, and they have a developing personality disorder that drives every ounce of who they are, and it drives how they treat you. Imagine your sibling bringing a child into the world or children into the world, and they turn out to be the same way as your sibling. Wouldn't that be draining, guys? Let me know in the chat box. Do you have that experience? I have 2 clients that have that experience. And the father is bad to the sibling, and his girls are bad to the sibling. They don't call. They don't text. They don't say hello. Happy Mother's Day. Sorry that you had a loss. How are you doing this month? Can we come and help you? Can we come and show you love and support? Can we come up and visit you? None of that's going on. And to be very honest, as I delve into things with this family, as I have done it over time with this family, I see that there is no barrier that is stopping his children from reaching out to his sister at all. They're just rude. And that's the reality of that. Have they developed personality disorders? Maybe. I think they're entitled. I think they're narcissistic. I think they are lacking in empathy. They only want life when it caters to them. They're not going to cater to his sister, So the dynamic here is pretty ugly, And having a sibling like this who has children who are just as bad, if not worse, that is a tragedy, right, guys? All right, guys, that is the topic for tonight. Let me know what you think of this. Have you had this experience? Post your comments for me. I'm going to go back to the chat box. Next week, we're going to talk about some interesting things. We're going to talk about the psychology of entitlement, because you need to know what that is. We're going to break that down, and then I'm going to give you the bonus topic for next Saturday. I'll give that to you later in the week. We may also have a video during the week if I'm able to do that. Sometimes I'm not. Okay, let me go to the chat box, guys, so that we can wrap up. I truly hope this was a helpful conversation for you. Patrick Black 1, hello. Good to see you again, and you're welcome. I agree. Patrick Black 1 says, I'm glad we're looking for answers. I agree. Some people on the live chat tonight and in all of my live chats, they are looking for answers. They're looking for validation. They're looking for guidance, looking for inspiration, hope, community, family, love. And I see that given all the time freely on this channel. And it's just beautiful, you know? Good to have you all with me. Don One, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Alien Roster or Rooster? Alien Rooster. That's cute. Hello and welcome to the channel. Alien Rooster says, can you speak on the dynamics of being adopted and having siblings? Well, I mean, it would depend on the angle. Would that mean that we're talking about the person who's adopted and they have siblings with the biological family? Or are we talking about somebody being adopted and then they have step or half siblings or other adopted siblings? Post this question in the comment section once this live chat ends, and I'm happy to answer that for you. Let me tell you that anytime that I have seen kids from the foster and adoption centers or system, the sibling dynamic is still very similar to the sibling dynamic of kids who are not adopted and fostered. The only change here, and I see this now in my practice, I have quite a few kids who have been adopted and fostered. But the only area that I see that this kind of gets complicated is when the adopted child is adopted. Okay, they are adopted, maybe the first child before the other child is adopted, or maybe they've been adopted along with their sibling. As soon as that mother becomes impregnated and she conceives a biological child, there's a dynamic that builds there. And sibling rivalry, sibling violence, sibling jealousy, malicious envy can sometimes be the result of that. Even though the adopted children know they are loved, it's that biological child that often gets harassed. Instagram user, hello and welcome. Okay, looking for more comments, guys. And then we can wrap up. Instagram user says, so happy I made live chat. Yep, it's been too long. I agree. I haven't seen you in a while. I thought I recognized your screen name. Ellie Wentz is barely hanging on, actually. Jeremy Robinson says, I have a younger sister who is entitled and who throws temper tantrums when she doesn't get her way and doesn't take responsibility for anything and deflects blame to others. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The problem is her, Jeremy Robinson, not you. Shay Bay, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Says, my sister is almost 10 years older than me by different fathers, and I almost feel like we didn't come from the same mom. We're total opposites. Yeah, sometimes that's the case. Absolutely. Absolutely. My mom's relationship with her sibling is the same way. Their blood, they're only like 3 or 4 years apart. Total opposites. JD Jenny, I wanted to bring this up because I thought this was beautifully said. JD Jenny says, I'm sorry for all of the pain each of you have experienced on behalf of family members. It's not how it should be. It hurts deep. Yes, it does. And that empathy and validation is welcome. So thank you for saying that. Michelle, and I'm just putting you up there. Oh, God. Janog, I hope I said that correct. Welcome. Good to see you. Janog says, a 108-year-old woman was asked, what's your advice to such a long life? Her answer was, the best answer I have ever heard in my life. Stay away from other people. Well, I mean, within reason, right? Within reason. But I can't say I don't. I cannot say I disagree with that. I agree with that. To a certain extent, you do. You need to be very, very methodical and intentional. That's the word I'm looking for, intentional, when you bring people into your world. You already have family issues. You already have sibling issues. Why would you want to bring in a stranger that's going to create more of a tornado? They're going to turn a tornado into a hurricane. So it's like, don't go that route. So you really do have to be very intentional as to who you bring into your world. So I agree with this wise 108-year-old woman. Thank you for sharing that. Trauma Survivor says, do I have some kind of entitled narcissism for wanting to live in the same home as my sibling who was raised by my aunt uncle, but I never was? Someone said that to me, and I think it worries me. I think I've seen this several times that you have mentioned. I can't really give you that answer. I would have to know the family dynamic, and I wouldn't want to validate something that's not 100% the case. And I also wouldn't want to tell you something that doesn't add up. So I can't give you that answer. I wish I could. I wish I could. Instagram user says, I'm so grateful for this safe space and topic. Yeah, that's so good to hear. Thank you for saying that. Okay, let me scroll, guys. I want to say hello to a few of you, excuse me, before we wrap up. Rodeo Rose says Cain killed Abel. Thank you for mentioning that. First of all, welcome. Good to see you tonight. Cain and Abel. There were also issues with Jacob and his brother Isaac, right? Or Jacob and his brother. I'm trying to think of the other siblings. It's not coming to me right now, but I do know that in the King James Bible or the New International Version, you will find a lot of sibling rivalry that is going on in the scriptures. And it is a very real account of what's happening. You know, it's a very real account. I think Rachel and Leah, they were siblings, right? It shows you the dynamic. It isn't always the best. We also have King David and Absalom. They are in the story with their sister Tamar. Those of you who are connected to your Bible and know what I'm talking about, you're probably like, oh yeah, them too, right? There was a lot of sibling rivalry with Absalom and his brother. There were a lot of issues with Tamar and her brother, you know, and King David was just the father of them, and he was observing some really intense and dangerous sibling rivalry. So there's sibling rivalry all throughout the Bible. In fact, there's actually family toxicity all throughout the Bible. Get that? And there's nothing in the Bible that says, you know, that families are perfect. Family is everything. That is really nowhere in Scripture. In Scripture, you're going to find the chaos that we are all talking about in the Bible. Isn't that interesting? So thank you for mentioning that, Rodeo Rose. I think a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people think, well, if I go to the scriptures, it's just going to convict me and make me feel bad because I'm going to have to hold somebody's hand and sing Kumbaya. And the reality is no. Once you really get to know the Bible outside of the religion that is sold to you, if you just focus on that Bible, you will see, wow, you know, this has some family toxicity. And a lot of things we deal with in today's society is very similar to the toxicity in the Bible. So maybe that's some motivation and encouragement for those of you who have a different view. Anna S., hello, welcome. Good to see you. And I meant to thank you for being a member on the channel. So glad to see you as a member. Anna S. says, my brother likes to put me down and make me feel like I don't know stuff. He always tries to lecture me and explain life to me. Meanwhile, I've gone abroad, am a lot more independent, have a loving partner. Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like, you know, maybe some personality clashing, maybe some envy. I don't know, but it's not a very nice thing. I understand what you're getting at. Thank you, JD Jenny. So grateful to have you here and everybody else on the channel as well. I'm seeing some new people tonight as well, like Tika Rose. Hello and welcome to the channel. Tika Rose says, this is what happens when you try to force relationships, allow people to do their own thing. Well, you know, I kind of feel like this. If we allow people to do their own thing, sometimes it's very reckless, but I get what you're saying. I just think that we have to allow people the space to set boundaries as they need, to communicate or not communicate as they desire. You know, within these sibling relationships, there's often a toxic family dynamic. And the toxic family dynamic is an insistence on staying together as siblings. And I just think that that is the unhealthy way to go about it. Anna S. goes on to say, your videos have helped me a lot to find out. Thank you so much for that. And I'm so glad to hear that, to find out that my family has been invading me and my feelings while expecting me to respect theirs and accept theirs as the one and only truth. Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that. Totally get that. And I'm sorry you've had to go through that. It's like navigating, you know, it's like navigating the waters on your own, trying to figure out where you need to be, you know? Okay, guys, we're going to wrap up in literally a second here. Girl Mom, hello, welcome. Thank you for saying that. Yes. Yes, we can. I think that's wonderful. Thank you for saying that. And welcome to tonight's chat. I think it's wonderful to pray for that girl mom, for sure. The Good Glow, hello and welcome. I don't know if I welcomed you, but hello. The Good Glow says, I feel for my sister-in-law because I don't think she has no idea who she's dealing with. Whenever she visits from Florida, my brother never brings her around me. I know why, but she is clueless. Yeah. Hopefully she remains clueless for a while. C. Nay, hello and welcome. Good to see you and welcome to the channel. I don't remember seeing you. Says, I'm so happy that I caught a live. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you for saying that. So glad you could make it. Your videos are always worth the watch. Excuse me. You're so insightful. Thank you so much. That's so great. Thank you so much for saying that. Okay, guys. Did I miss anyone? Tika Rose. I'm going to say this really quickly. Put this up here really quickly because I think it's worth it. Families are like cults, full of secrets. That's why it's jealousy and envy. Stop forcing relationships. I mean, okay, I will go for the first part of that sentence. I very much agree. Negative families, toxic families, detrimental families are very much like a cult. I agree. I agree with that sentiment. Yeah. Okay. If anybody else has said anything that you've wanted me to answer a question, if you said anything, I apologize if I was not able to get to you tonight. I'm just scrolling one last time. Okay. I'm gonna make JD Jenny the last comment here. JD Jenny in Orlando, they're saying the same thing. Generational curses and generational curses. So very much agree with you. Check out my previous live chat on family curses for those of you that may have not seen it. Guys, thank you so much for being with me tonight in this chat. I truly hope that it was helpful. We're going to continue to talk next weekend. Hopefully we'll be just as insightful as the weeks prior and tonight's conversation. Remember to post something in the comment section if you want me to answer questions or give you some insights. I love doing that for you. In the meantime, have a wonderful Saturday, a safe Saturday, and I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.